Welcome to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And we love having authors come on, especially when they're coming all the way from Australia. We're joined by Jaemin Frazer, and Jaemin is a TedX speaker, author of multiple books, and he's widely regarded as one of Australia's best life coaches. He's the founder of the Insecurity Project and specializes in helping entrepreneurs, leaders, and business owners eradicate insecurity to improve their lives. Jaemin is the voice behind the popular 1 Minute Coach radio segment, heard by over 750,000 listeners daily. He's the author of The 1 Minute Coach, Unhindered, the 7 essential practices for overcoming insecurity, and elegantly simple solutions to complex people problems. He also has a new book coming out this fall called Leverage. We'll learn all about those and so much more, but let's start out. Jaemin, how are you doing?
Oh, wonderful. Thanks so much for having me on the show, Jeremy.
Absolutely. So it's 6 a.m. your time when we're recording this, which is awesome. So we appreciate you getting up early and doing this, but let's start with a little bit of your backstory before we dive into the books. Give us a little bit of your backstory in terms of the Insecurity Project and how you got into this work.
I think when I really decided to step into the world and bring my gift, my first venture into the entrepreneurial space, it's all wonderful. It's all exciting. It's all, yes, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to make $1 million and change the world. And then the first attempt at writing and putting some stuff that was original and mine out into the world, just this massive insecurity that shows up in my world that it's like, hang on a minute. What if it's no good? What if no one likes it? What if it fails? What if I expose myself? And I thought I was a secure individual. I thought I was okay, but it wasn't until I put something of myself out there that I exposed this deep fear of being found out as somehow fake or a fraud or not enough. And so I realized then and there that if I didn't find a way of solving that insecurity problem, that I'd just shrink back to what was safe and known and comfortable. So that began a quest for me for the next few years, just to go work out, first of all, was it a solvable problem? Secondly, had anyone already solved it? And was there a model? Or was there a framework? And the answer to the first 2 questions was, yes, it's solvable. Yes, plenty of people have, but no one had modeled it as far as I could tell. And so that began the process, firstly, of sorting it out for myself and then really understanding the process. I'm a very pragmatic person. I love structure. I've got an engineering kind of brain. So I want to know how, and I want to know the simplest and most efficient way a problem can be solved and then replicated. So my life's work from that point has been to deconstruct the process of solving insecurity, to model it, because if they can do it, I can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And then to present that as a really intelligent and clear framework in the world for people who are trying to do good work, but have never really dealt with that part of their life.
I know that for many who are successful, they do struggle with being insecure, and you hear things like imposter syndrome, and there's a lot of buzzwords and things like that, but you deal with highly successful people who struggle. And I know that one of the things that you like to point out is that even in youth, and many times we try to, think, oh, well, if all these bad things didn't happen, but yet you're quick to point out, well, those make you stronger. Resistance makes you stronger. So talk about how you kind of look at and frame insecurity, and then we can kind of dive into what led you to write the book.
Yeah, fantastic. So the imposter syndrome is language that I hear people use all the time. I think it's very ineffective language because I have people that tell me they've got the imposter syndrome but are not insecure, which is strange because the idea of being an imposter is the fear of being found out as somehow inadequate and lacking, which is insecurity at its core. But the moment you call it a syndrome, then you're thinking about it as something external that's come on you, and the best you could do is manage it. So I think it's really important to be very precise and realize that insecurity is the fear of our own opinion of ourselves being exposed to the world. We're not afraid of what others think of us. We're afraid of what we think of us. and failure or rejection is just going to highlight what we fear is true. So those narratives are always created when we're young. We're sense-making creatures. We go into the world and we tell stories about why things happen and what it means about us. And so inevitably, in painful moments when we're young, we create narratives. We decide the reason these things happen was because of us. The craziest thing is those narratives are often unreviewed for the rest of a person's life. And so an adult goes into the world with unresolved narratives of inadequacy from their childhood. So that seems like a strange way to live a successful life. So most of my work is helping adults go back and review the data of the stories they've told as a child, and to analyze the sense-making paradigms they've created for themselves and the prisons they've formed, and to update the software to improve the script, and to in that way free themselves from disempowering narratives, so they can be at their best where it matters most.
And I think that helps paint the picture, a little bit of the framework for Unhindered, but go ahead and give us a little bit of a synopsis for the book.
Sure. So first part is to highlight the fact that people typically solve the problems where they see the pain. So they see pain show up in their health. It must be a health problem. Finances aren't great. This has to be a money problem. My relationships are on the rocks, has to be a relationship problem. Business or work, wherever you see the pain, that's where you try and address the issue. The first half of the book highlights the fact that while that's where the pain's showing up, it's highly unlikely that's what's causing the pain. I would say underneath all dysfunction, all pain, physically, financially, emotionally, relationally, it all comes back to these insidious fears that drive us, that cause us to show up with something to prove or defend, that weaken our psyche, that cause all our best energy to be diverted into protection and proving. So the first part of the book is to highlight that it is actually an insecurity problem. If you can come to terms with that, then it's the framework. Okay, well, now I know, at least I've got eyes on what's going on. How do we think clearly about this? Because most people, if they're like when I launched the Insecurity Project, my business coach at the time said, no, you can't call it the Insecurity Project, Jaemin. Like, that's clearly the wrong name. People are insecure about being insecure. So no one's going to be putting their hand up saying, hey, Jaemin, can you help me? I'm insecure. But I'm ruined for anything else, because I see people suffer greatly because they don't know that it's a solvable problem. So they think the best that they can do is just manage it or mask it or medicate it. So then the second half of the book is to go, let's deconstruct this, break it down to its smallest moving parts, and understand the mechanics of insecurity so that you can change this and show up not insecure, actually free to be at your best in this season of growth. So second half of the book is the 7 practices for how anyone has ever solved that and how anyone ever will solve that.
What was an aha moment for you? Because as you mentioned, even starting out, becoming a writer, and then going through the process, it's a lot of soul searching. So for you writing this book, what was an aha moment or something that as you were fleshing it out kind of on paper, so to speak, that you're like, wow, that's a really good application for myself. And like, it kind of transforms the way you look at things.
All of it. I'm non-negotiable about smoking what I'm selling. So I think it would be so unkind to speak about things that aren't the embodiment of my own journey. So all of it is aha moments. But I think probably what ties it all together is practice 5. Get help from someone who doesn't care about you. And I think that is so counterintuitive, but then the more you analyze it, it's actually not that counterintuitive at all. Every hero has a guide, and there's always a wisdom character. There's a Gandalf, there's a Yoda, there's a Dumbledore, a Mr. Miyagi. And early on, you think they're the hero, but they're just the hero's guide. And they're not actually there to save the hero. They're there to shine a light on the path and then get out of the way. So I think typically, because it's such a vulnerable subject and a personal subject, when people feel like it's time to address it, they think they're going to need someone who's going to care about them and believe in them and support them and encourage them. That is not true. Those people get in the way. They actually weaken the hero and confuse the hero about who the hero is. So you will need help, but you need clean help. You need someone who will not get in the way He'll not rescue you. He'll not give you advice. He'll not make it about them. So I think that's a really beautiful piece that ties it all together. You'll need help, but you've got to find the right help in the right way. And the moment you can create a judgment-free space, a clean space, then it becomes safe to turn all the lights on and go examine the data and work out who you really are and what's going on for you, and are you good enough or not. In the presence of any kind of judgment, even if it's positive judgment, wanting, care, enthusiasm, support, it's not safe to be fully honest in case what you discover implicates you. So I think that's a really big aha moment that ties the whole work together.
Yeah, I love it. That's great advice too. Every hero needs a guide. So what's been the feedback so far in terms of how this book has helped others? So what's been some of that feedback that has put a smile on your face so far?
I hear frequently that it has dialed down the angst. Typically people link a lot of pain to self-awareness. I think about the human condition all the time. We're desperate to be good people, but we're afraid we're bad. And for fear of that badness ever being fully proven, we run or we hide. So most people are terrified of awareness for what awareness might reveal. And so most of my work feels like coaxing scared kittens out from under the lounge with a saucer of milk. It's going to be okay. And so that has been the feedback to go, the more I've lent into this, the less scary it has become. Fear examined is diminished, fear unexamined grows. So people kind of go, when they get their eyes on the problem and realize this is all the work of a scared toddler often, or a scared child who's navigated some difficulty and not had the tools to make sense of it other than to personalize it negatively. When you can see it like that and understand the steps, you kind of think, wow, I could actually work this through in my life and solve this problem. So yeah, trust the process and I'll be okay. This is not a special problem. This is not a unique problem. This is a common problem, a predictable problem with a predictable solution. So they kind of then realize it's going to be okay.
So this book is out right now. You have another one coming out in the fall, Leverage. Give us a little bit of a teaser for the book coming out in the fall.
The book's called Leverage, How to Change the People You Love for All the Right Reasons and Get the Relationships You Deserve. And it kind of flies in the face of the common marriage wisdom, which is, don't try and change the one you love. I'm convinced that's actually the worst relationship advice ever given. And if you don't find a way to change the people you love, they'll annoy the life out of you and you'll end up hating them. So I think we've all had bad experiences trying to bring change in our most important relationships. And because it's gone bad, we assume that must mean you're not supposed to do it. I think that's not how it works. You've got to just bring skill to the game. You're supposed to improve each other. You're supposed to keep the space clean between the people you love. And that requires a fair bit of energy and effort. I love thinking about the law of entropy, that the systems are moving toward randomness and chaos. So just because you get married and you love someone, if you don't put energy into that system, it gets worse, not better. Things deteriorate. So to have the difficult conversations, to bring change, you need leverage. And so this is how to have leverage for the right reasons at the right time with the right tools.
And I think everything you're talking about, it's how do you make others better? How do you make yourself better? And it's all around relationships. But like you said, it all takes effort and doing it the right way with the right reasons so that you ultimately, everyone gets to grow in the right direction and move forward. What on your end, when you talk about the power of relationships and leverage and, even going back and really kind of learning more about yourself, where do we go to kind of follow these conversations and dive in? Because you put out a lot of good information. So where do we go to follow these conversations and carry them forward?
Well, the interesting thing about my business coach telling me I couldn't call it the Insecurity Project was no one else in the world has gone that hard after that one word. So it's quite easy to find me. You Google Overcoming Insecurity, the Insecurity Project, you'll find me. So I have a podcast, the Insecurity Project. But Jaemin Frazer on all the socials, or jaeminfrazer.com, you'll find all my books and my work around improving the quality of your relationship with yourself by overcoming insecurity, so that then you can improve the quality of your relationship with others too.
Give us, as we wrap up, give us one just favorite tip, recommendation when you're talking about having a relationship with your spouse and getting working together to make sure you're both going in the right direction and pouring into each other. What's just one bit of advice to use leverage in the right way?
One of my favorite lines in the book is be clear or be quiet. And so I watch a lot of couples nag each other or complain about the stuff they don't like, and they think that's being really clear. The moment you nag, the moment you say, you need to do this, you're actually communicating the opposite of what you think. You're telling a person they don't have to do anything because there's no consequences, and you'll just keep nagging, and then you'll get over it and they'll go back to what they were doing. So when you decide that something's important and it is deserving of change, then be clear, be really clear, and be clear about what will happen if it doesn't change. So that simple idea is confronting because it raises a whole bunch of other issues, and that's talked about in the book. But be clear or be quiet. So notice in your own communication where you're actually not clear. You think you're being clear, but you're just making the problem worse.
Nice. Well, go ahead and mention again, website, where do we go? And also, where can we get the book? It's called, once again, Unhindered, the 7 Essential Practices for Overcoming Insecurity. So where do we go to get the book and be on the lookout for leverage?
Books on Amazon, the audio books on Audible. My website is jaeminfrazer.com or the insecurityproject.com. Either of those will find me, and you can also order the book off there. You'll find me at Jaemin Frazer on all the socials as well.
Well, Jaemin, greatly appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Thanks for such a lovely conversation.